Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Jack, the snack that smiles back. Thanks for joining us today. Let's get straight into it. If you've watched the last video on our Reddit stories, you would have known about the tale of the PS5/divorce drama. Well, as some lovely friends on my Instagram and stuff have messaged me, it turns out there's been an update from the ex-wife herself. Yes, on that note, if you guys see any good stories yourselves that you want us to check out here on the channel, send them to me on Instagram. I'm most active on that. I'd love to know what you guys would like me to check out and read. It could be more than just these Reddit AITA stories. It's fun to know what you guys are looking into. But for those unaware of the story, we'll quickly play the last of it. And those of us who want to go straight to the update, I'll put a little time code below for us. My wife wants to divorce me and won't talk to me. How can I win her back? Hi all, I need some advice about how to win back my wife, and I am genuinely willing to do anything. To recap, my wife, 29, and I, 34, of 8 years, had been having serious relationship issues over the last few years. The main area of friction between us is that I have a son, who's 16, from a previous teenage fling that I never told her about. We also have another 2 young children together. My 16-year-old had to come live with us about 3 years ago because his biological mother died. His presence in our lives caused a lot of tension between my wife and I because she felt I majorly breached her trust. We argued more and more about minor things until last Thursday I came home to an empty house. I am devastated. My wife is the love of my life and has always been the main support center in my life. I tried calling her, but she kept sending me to mail. She sent me a text saying that she wasn't ready to talk, but was filing for a divorce and to wait to hear from her lawyers regarding separation mediation. I am a wreck. I would do anything to have her back, including counseling and therapy. She had previously asked me to attend, but I was too arrogant to take it up. I felt that if I could just talk to her, I can have a chance to explain and we can get through this. The next day I did something stupid. I went to a workplace, accounting firm, with her favorite takeaway lunch to try to talk to her. She must have worded up the reception staff because they adamantly refused to buzz me into the office. Her staff even went as far as calling for building security. Not wishing to cause further drama, I left voluntarily. That night, I doubled down on my stupidity. I tried to visit her at her parents' house with a bunch of gifts for her and the kids. My mother-in-law answered through intercom, but wouldn't let me in. I was so frustrated and emotional that I broke down at the door, basically making a scene and refusing to leave. Later, my brother turned up. I assume my wife called. He tried to convince me to go home, but we ended up in a shouting match. He eventually tried to manhandle me back to my car, so I got into a physical altercation with him. But I left when my father-in-law came out and threatened to call the police on me. Things have really gone downhill since then. This morning, 2 police constables turned up to where I work with a provisional domestic violence order, along with a summons to attend court for a permanent order. I was in shock, and as a result, was inadvertently quite rude to the constables. This put them offside. I am a contractor working at a client site, and so when my client asked the constables what the matter was about, they said they couldn't say for privacy reasons, but then immediately handed out business cards with their Family Violence Liaison Unit title embossed at the top. So now my firm's senior partner has waved me off work going back to the client site, and I may be fired. I feel like this is the wake-up call I needed. I know I have been a narcissistic a-hole and am ready to change. What can I do to talk to her? To show her I am determined to be better. I don't want to just end it like this. I know that if I have a chance to explain myself, to apologize, to promise to work really hard on my marriage, to work on my narcissism, to go to therapy, to go to counseling, whatever my wife needs to forgive me, and we can get on with our lives. Our court hearing is in a few weeks, so I am thinking of turning up early with some expensive jewelry and try to talk to my wife before the hearing. My solicitor has told me this is a bad idea, but I feel like I need to do something. I don't want to negotiate with my wife across a courtroom. I just want to remind her how much I love her and how much she means to me. To elaborate, this is one of the 4 or so stories this father has posted in regards to his family, of which he's constantly been proven to be the a-hole and rather problematic as a husband. Now over to the son to bring it home. Hi everyone. A lot has happened over the last few months. My stepmom has been reading all of these posts and comments. She saw that he's now saying that he will change and hoping to gain some sympathy of it. She emailed me this today to pass on to people and can decide if he deserves any. I haven't edited it in any way, just copied and pasted it. Hi everyone. I am not a Reddit user, but I have been following the messages that my stepson and soon-to-be ex has written. I would also like to thank the hundreds of kind people who immediately saw through this bullshit and gave him some hard truths. I am also grateful of all the well wishes to me, my sons, and Jonah. Apart from the few incidences last week, which isn't the complete picture by the way, he has stopped trying to contact me directly. But I am hearing from mutual friends that he is on a mission to garner sympathy, trying to lay blame for his life falling apart everywhere except for himself. I note that he is throwing a pity party for himself on Reddit too, hoping to get people to congratulate him on how much he has changed. I want to set the record that this man deserves no sympathy. I have been with him for 8 years. Yes, I realize that I am a naive idiot, and I take my part of the blame for not only sticking around, but for having 2, now 3, incredible, light of my life, adorable children with this man. I will lay out the autopsy of my marriage and let people judge for themselves. I met him when I was 21, a broke uni student trying to make it on my own. I met him while working at my part-time job. I was taken in by his looks, his wealth, and his confidence. We got married within 3 months. I was stupid and vain, tricking myself into thinking he was the prince to whisk me off to a better life. You don't need to, babe. I'll look after you. You just look pretty and look after my house. After the birth of our first child, I took 12 weeks off for maternity leave. I was pretty established in my job then. He, again, tried to convince me to be a stay-at-home mum. He tried to gaslight me, saying that it's not fair on your son, and that his fondest memories himself as a child was with his mum at home. Throughout the marriage, he would constantly use his wealth as a leverage. My dad, bless him, is a good tradie, but terrible businessman. Early on, my ex arranged a loan through his family trust to rescue my dad's business. My ex would then gently remind me of the fact that every time we disagreed about something, he would constantly monitor my credit card usage. He would question me on certain transactions that weren't to his liking. Example, fashion, gym, hair, Botox, makeup. They'd be completely fine. But a latte and a muffin? Who the hell did you have a coffee with? He would constantly provide input on my appearance. As an example, he would show me pictures of celebrities and tell me that it would be nice if I dressed and did my makeup more like that celebrity. He would also make offhand comments about what I ate. Are you sure you want to order that in a main size? Didn't you have a sugary drink already at lunch? Or my personal pet hate, I think my wife will have the salad tonight. At the industry awards or charity things we went to, he would tell me who I should talk to. I can't tell you how many inane, vapid conversations I've had with other spouses about the latest bags or some other bullshit winter collection. I once made a joke about him in front of some of his colleagues, and he scolded me like a child on the car ride home. You all know about him hiding Jonah's existence from me. What you may not know is that he lied about Jonah's mum and made her out to be a gold digger who tricked him into having a kid. This is why my initial reception of Jonah was definitely not warm, and I am ashamed for it. He's a really decent and sweet boy and is so kind and patient with my 2 boys. He deserves better than his dad. I can go on for pages and pages. This list doesn't even begin to describe the level of narcissism, manipulation, and control he had over me for the last 8 years. I know I am equally to blame for this, but I'm done with it now. I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't confident enough. I didn't want to say no to a man who gave me everything. Even now, at weak moments, I feel myself start to miss him and wonder if I should just endure it, that maybe he'll change just enough that I may be able to live with it. But then his recent fake pity party bullshit snapped me right out of it. I don't want his money. I don't want him. I just want my kids and I to live our lives free of him. Thank you for reading. And so that concludes that beautiful tale. Case closed. My voice hurts from reading that one. Jeez, I need water. Not that any of us really had much pity for this man, but if you did, I hope it's out the window. Overall, clearly evident that this man was far worse than we realized. I mean, sure, he's acknowledged this all now and realizes he's been a bad person and is trying to fix himself for it, but based on what she's describing here, it clearly seems to be more of a case that this man's resorting to garnering sympathy as his new ego and self-worth. If he can't use his financial power and just physical intimidation to get what he wants, then he'll resort to groveling. Either way, He's only doing these things to gain a sense of power over his life and those around him. Something to look out for whenever you see someone trying to, say that they accept they're in the wrong, and they just, they focus more on the groveling than the actual effort to change. Am I the a-hole for keeping an inheritance from my ex-husband's phobic family? I'm a 33-year-old female, married to my childhood best friend John, who's 33, when we were 22. I knew he was gay, and we decided to get married for several reasons. Taxes, convenience, to keep his family from finding out, etc. I got along with his family, who loved me. John had med school paid for by his family. I didn't have a job, and instead became a full-time caretaker for his maternal grandparents, who, when we first got married, were 85 and 87 and were dealing with multiple health problems. John's family supported us both financially through John's medical training. Once John got his MD and finished residency 3 years ago, he decided to come out to his parents. We got divorced. We decided against telling the family that I knew all along. John's parents cut him off completely when he moved in with his boyfriend, basically disowning him. His grandparents weren't told about him being gay. Everyone was pretty much in agreement that it wasn't a good idea, as they were quite fragile physically and mentally at this point. But they knew we divorced. And whereas John used to come see his grandparents frequently, because his parents had disowned him, John decided to pretty much limit contact with his entire family and never really visited or called. On the other hand, I had been his grandparents' main caretaker for so long that I, 1, didn't have any other career training to support myself, and 2, figured it would make sense for me to continue being their caretaker, as they were rapidly declining and didn't want them to adjust poorly to a lot of new changes. I moved into his grandparents' home with them. While I was angry at John's parents for their treatment of him, I still loved his grandparents, who had always been kind to me. When they passed, within a few weeks of each other, his grandfather ended up willing almost their entire estate to me, about $12 million in assets. John and his mum each received about $50K. John and I discussed it, and I felt it was fair that he received a higher proportion, and we're both happy and comfortable with how we divided it. His parents, on the other hand, had expected to receive the bulk of the inheritance and accused me of abusing his grandparents and manipulating them into willing almost everything to me. Apparently, they had made some business decisions, assuming they would receive the money. They also argued that they would have gone ballistic if they knew John was using their money to fund his lifestyle. I honestly hadn't thought of their will at all when they passed. It had never come up, but I feel John deserves the money after the way his parents treated him, and John tells me I deserve to be taken care of after I spent more than a decade of my life caring for his grandparents. Now, are we the a-holes for keeping the inheritance when his parents had made plans based on their assumptions of the inheritance? By far, the perfect test to ensure your children actually care and respect about you when you're passing. Do not let them be aware at all of your actual fortune. On one end, it proves that they were actually there by your side because they genuinely loved and cared about you, and it becomes one of those fun fantasy adventures where you end up with a lot of wealth and love. Okay, but seriously, I completely understand and support the idea that those who take care of elderly when they're at their last moments deserve a part of the wealth. Elderly care is a very demanding resource. I personally know I'm not going to be someone who's really going to completely be there for my parents when they get old, but I also absolutely accept the fact that as they pass, whoever's been taking care of them, if my parents genuinely felt they were just very supportive and very professional at what they did, yeah, give them a cut of the will. I know you can argue, well, they're just doing their job. Which, look, isn't surprising coming from someone who likely doesn't tip on their Uber Eats. Yeah, I'm looking at you. I know it's technically my reflection right now, which is also kind of accurate. I didn't do tips for a while until I really realized just how stupidly, rude it was. Go straight to the top comment though. Natar plays stupid homophobic games, wins stupid phobic prizes. Though in the other court, so they had $12 million, but instead of hiring an actual caretaker or going to a bomb-ass retirement nursing home, they hired you, the untrained wife of their grandson, to take care for them. If you're gonna make up a story, at least make it believable. Yatar. Yeah, some people not believing this is a legitimate thing, though some thoughts are rather constructive despite getting 37 downvotes. This is a tough one because your marriage was a sham marriage, and his grandparents don't know why you divorced. They may have just left you the money because they thought you deserved it because you were left by John with no way to support yourself. That being said, you were their unpaid caretaker for years, and I'm assuming John's grandparents were of sound mind when they made that will. I'm not going to vote here because I honestly don't know, but I think the sham marriage and lies about the divorce highly informed their decision to leave you everything. That is a very valid point. Again, these stories are all based on just the OP's perspective of things. Another downvoted comment does bring up a good point, just general speech here. They understand his parents aren't accepting of gifts, John being his, himself, and that's too bad. And while you spent a long time taking care of them is great, but you received $12 million and the deceased grandparent's own child got nothing. And the reason you don't want to share it with them is because they think being gay is wrong, which, guess what? They probably learned from their grandparents who just made you millionaires. You're the a-hole. People aren't born phobic, and John's parents more than likely learned that behavior from the dead grandparents who just made you rich. So how can you love and respect his grandparents but hate his parents? There is a reason why nobody wanted to tell the grandparents John was gay. If they had, then the grandparents might have cut him off too. Okay, but the children of the deceased grandparents are adults now. Very capable of using this thing on their own. Very capable to be like, you know what? Maybe that was just something that I was brought up to believe because my grandparents ignorantly believed it, not because it was actually factually a wrong moral thing. But that also said, you do seem to have treated these grandparents as if they're just some friendly saints who were caring about you the entire time, and John. In a way, this is kind of like blood money. That's probably an exaggeration, but I think it's valid. Overall, I am going to still say Natar, because at the end of the day, this was the grandparents' decision, and I feel like I can trust that the OP here didn't manipulate them. But that last comment, I do feel raises a valid point as to the suspicions of how this is fair. Am I the a-hole for refusing to have a dry wedding? For some backstory, my fiance's sister is an alcoholic. She struggled with alcohol abuse for the 6 years my fiance and I have been together. She, like most addicts, is a terribly manipulative person who refuses to get help. She's finally hit rock bottom, I guess, and is getting help for her alcoholism, which I'm very happy about. By the time our wedding rolls around, she'll be 6 months sober. But because of this, my fiance doesn't want any alcohol at the wedding. He thinks it would be too much temptation too soon. I think that's bullshit. He and his family have always enabled her to keep her happy, and I feel like this is another attempt at that. After they've spent upwards of $500,000 on bailing her out of prison and new cars, I'm putting my foot down. This is my day, and I feel like I should be allowed to drink a glass of fricking champagne at my own wedding. My fiance, on the other hand, thinks that if she's going to be there, we should be accommodating to her. Because of this, our wedding planning has come to a halt, and I feel like he's choosing her over me. So am I the a-hole for refusing to have a dry wedding to appease my fiance's alcoholic sister? Edit to add, I realize I wasn't as clear as possible. She's completely fine with not going to the wedding due to the temptation being too much for her to handle. My fiance, on the other hand, really wants her there and is pushing for this, which I think is unfair to me. So, okay, hold up. Wait, so you're telling me this allegedly manipulative person is being of sound and conscious mind to consider someone else? I know you were kind of giving us some bad news about this lady in the start of the story, but gosh darn, is she someone who's really seems to be a good person. They're acknowledging they have a problem at least. This definitely becomes a question of which side really takes the cake in terms of dominance in their decision making. And does she get to be accused of being a bridezilla because of this standoff? I mean, going straight to the top comment here. No a-holes here. Feels like there's room for compromise here. For instance, maybe no alcohol before the reception, so his sister can attend the ceremony. You could even have the ceremony and reception at different locations so she's not tempted to stay. Or have a single bottle of champagne just for you and the groom. Or do a dry rehearsal dinner so she's not totally excluded from the whole wedding. If neither of you will compromise, everyone sucks here. And I have to say that's definitely the top comment for a valid reason. End of the day, this is the family you're getting married into, and if you can't handle this aspect of the family, well, especially considering how close the brother is to their sister and clearly wants their sister to be a part of this life experience, you need to learn to adapt. Thankfully, the OP does seem open about this. That's a good idea I'll look into. I think he wants her to be totally included, which is fine, but she needs self-control, in my opinion. I'll discuss the option of a single bottle for us with him. Ew, what is that? Compromise? On this subreddit? Aside from that top post though, it is a bit of a mixed bag in the comments. Not the a-hole, I'm a recovering alcoholic and it's nobody's responsibility but my own. If she doesn't think she can control herself at the wedding, then she shouldn't be at the wedding. Meanwhile, AITA, it's also your fiance's day. Stop thinking about yourself. And just like this comment says here, what has a more meaningful impact towards your bonding as partners? The family being there, or you getting to have some alcohol? Like, what are you letting your partner know that you prioritize over most? I mean, I try to say family, but I mean, if it's butter chicken and naan bread or family, I'm... You know... Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to end today's story. Of course, thank you so much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here today. If you did enjoy the content, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know your thoughts down below as well. Yes, I know, no Emily. Very sad. She's still out on the 7 seas slaying krakens and the like, so she'll be back on with us at some point. In the meanwhile, make sure you drink your water, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!